After 15 years of marriage, Jake sat alone in the quiet of their living room, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him like a heavy storm cloud. The laughter, the whispered "I love yous," the years of building a life together, all of it now felt like an illusion, a cruel joke at his expense. He had always believed in their love, in the strength of their bond, but lately, something had changed. Emily had grown distant, her once warm presence replaced with a cool detachment. Late nights at work turned into unexplained absences, her phone becoming an extension of herself, always in her hand, always hiding something just beyond his reach. She had stopped sharing the little details of her day, the way she used to when they would sit on the porch, sipping coffee and watching the sun dip below the horizon. Instead, she would smile at messages she never showed him, dress up for occasions he was never invited to, and when he asked, her answers were vague, evasive. At first, he ignored it, convincing himself that it was just a phase, a rough patch they would work through as they always had. But deep down, he knew. The warmth in her voice when she spoke to him was gone, yet it returned when she thought he wasn't listening. The change was subtle at first, but undeniable. A shadow of doubt grew in his mind, twisting into something darker with each passing day. The confirmation came one evening when he overheard a phone call. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone, the soft, teasing lilt in her voice, the kind of voice she hadn't used with him in years, was enough. His stomach turned to ice. Later, when she left her phone unattended for just a moment, he saw a message flash across the screen, a flirtatious exchange that sent a knife through his heart. His Emily, the woman he had built a life with, was in love with someone else. Jake didn't react, at least not outwardly. He swallowed the rage, the heartbreak, the humiliation. Instead of confronting her in anger, he let the realization settle deep within him, hardening into resolve. Confrontation wouldn't change what had already been broken. But there was something he could do. The truth, as it turned out, was even more twisted than he had imagined. Emily's lover was also married. A man who had made the same vows, shared the same promises, and yet had shattered them just as easily. It was this revelation that gave Jake an idea. He wasn't going to act alone. With quiet determination, he reached out to the other betrayed spouse. The woman, equally devastated, didn't hesitate to join him. Together, they pieced together the lies, unraveling the web of deceit that had entangled their lives. It wasn't just an affair, it was an entire fantasy, a reckless escape at the cost of everything they had built. The night Emily had been waiting for finally arrived. She stood before the mirror, adjusting the straps of her dress, her lips painted a shade of red he hadn't seen in years. She turned to him, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath his calm exterior. "Jake, I need to feel young and wild again tonight," she whispered, her voice filled with excitement, with anticipation meant for someone else. She didn't see the suitcases packed neatly by the door. She didn't know that the locks had already been changed, that she wouldn't be coming back. And she certainly didn't know that at that very moment, her lover's wife was waiting for both of them at a restaurant, not for a romantic evening, but with divorce papers in hand. Jake watched as she smiled to herself, ready to walk out the door, unaware that the night she had been longing for was about to turn into her worst nightmare. He felt no anger, no sadness anymore, just the cold satisfaction of knowing that for once, she wouldn't be the one in control of the story. She had wanted to feel wild again. And tonight, she would. Just not in the way she had imagined. Each item he placed by the front door was a silent farewell, a symbolic closure to the life they had built together. The neatly packed suitcases stood like quiet sentinels, marking the end of 15 years of love, struggle, and memories. There was no anger in Jake's movements, only a quiet determination, a resolve forged from betrayal. With steady hands, he changed the locks on every door, ensuring that when Emily returned, the place she once called home would no longer welcome her. The metallic click of the locks echoed through the empty house, each turn of the key reinforcing his decision. This was no longer a place for lies and deceit. This was a place of healing, a fortress against further pain. He owed that much to himself. He owed that much to their children. The next step was inevitable. Jake reached for his phone, his heart hammering as he dialed a number he never expected to call, the wife of Emily's lover. The conversation was both surreal and liberating. A shared pain connected them, weaving an unspoken understanding between two people whose trust had been shattered by the same deception. Suspicion had gnawed at both of them for months, but now their worst fears were confirmed. United by betrayal, they formed an unspoken alliance, agreeing to meet at the restaurant where their partners planned to rendezvous. They would not allow this affair to remain in the shadows any longer. As the hours passed, an unexpected calm washed over Jake. The rage, the heartbreak, the unbearable weight of what had been done to him, all of it gave way to a cold, unwavering focus. This was not about revenge. This was about closure. About reclaiming the dignity that had been stripped from him in whispers, in stolen moments, in secret phone calls exchanged in the dead of night. The fallout would be messy, but he no longer feared it. The truth deserved to be seen in the light. When the fateful night arrived, Emily was practically glowing. She spent hours in front of the mirror, choosing her outfit with meticulous care, dressing in a way she hadn't for years. Excitement radiated from her, though she masked it behind vague excuses, claiming she had an event to attend. Jake said nothing. He only watched, observed, memorized every movement. Just as she was about to step out the door, she paused and looked at him with a sly smile, her voice soft, almost teasing. "I need to feel young and wild again tonight," she whispered. The words struck Jake like a knife, but he refused to let her see the wound. He gave her nothing, no reaction, no confrontation, no last-minute plea. Only silence. A knowing, measured silence. As the door clicked shut behind her, he remained still, watching through the window as her car disappeared into the night. His mind raced with memories, the warmth of their early years, the laughter that once filled their home, the nights spent holding each other after long, exhausting days. And yet, in an instant, everything they had built unraveled. The pain threatened to consume him, but he stood firm. There was no turning back now. At the restaurant, the plan set into motion with precision. Emily's lover arrived first, expecting a night of passion, only to be met with the icy fury of his wife. Divorce papers trembled in her grip as she confronted him, her voice rising with every demand for an explanation. Onlookers turned their heads, their hushed whispers adding weight to the humiliation unfolding before them. Moments later, Emily arrived, her anticipation evident in the confident sway of her steps. But as she approached, her smile faltered. Confusion flickered across her face, quickly replaced by dread as she took in the scene before her. Her lover cornered, his wife seething, an audience of strangers bearing witness to their exposed deception. The color drained from her face. The fantasy she had woven so carefully, the thrill of the affair, the reckless escape she had sought, it all shattered in an instant. The glamorous night she had envisioned had turned into a public reckoning. And she was at the center of the storm. Back at home, Jake waited in silence. He knew what was coming. Sure enough, the phone began to ring. Then again. And again. Each call went unanswered, each message more desperate than the last. Apologies. Justifications. Empty words meant to claw her way back into the life she had so carelessly destroyed. He ignored them all. At the restaurant, chaos continued to unfold. The lover's wife, armed with irrefutable evidence and years of pent-up frustration, took control of the moment. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. Every lie was dismantled, every excuse crushed beneath the weight of undeniable truth. Strangers whispered, shook their heads. A romantic evening had turned into a scene of public disgrace, and Emily stood at its center, exposed, vulnerable, powerless. For Jake, hearing about the fallout brought an unexpected sense of peace. He didn't revel in her humiliation, didn't take pleasure in her suffering. But there was closure in knowing that the betrayal was no longer hidden, no longer festering in the dark corners of their lives. Emily and her lover were forced to face the consequences, not just behind closed doors, but beneath the harsh, unrelenting scrutiny of the world. The life he had once known, the life he had fought to preserve, was gone. And yet, as the dust settled, he saw something new take shape. Opportunity. The cracks in his heart, once overwhelming, now felt like spaces for something stronger to grow. The pain of betrayal was still raw, but it no longer defined him. He had taken back control of his story. Standing in the home that was now his alone, Jake let out a slow, steady breath. Exposing Emily's affair had not been about revenge. It had been about reclaiming his dignity, about refusing to be reduced to the role of a betrayed husband quietly nursing his wounds. This was his turning point. A chance to rebuild, not on broken promises, but on his own terms. The echoes of her deception would linger, but they would not break him. If anything, they had set him free. Sometimes, the hardest truths lead to the strongest resolutions. Betrayal may wound you, but it also forces you to see your own worth, to choose yourself, to move forward. And so, as he looked ahead to a future without Emily, Jake knew one thing for certain. He would no longer be the man waiting in the shadows, hoping to be chosen. He was done waiting. And for the first time in a long time, he felt truly alive.